What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, this past Sunday night was the 5th episode of the 2nd season of Winning Time, the Showtime Lakers docu-series that started last year. I think it was March in 2022 is when it debuted. But we had to wait all the way until this August, I think it was, for season 2 to start. And the way this thing is going, I don't know, man. I think it's going to be this going to have to be at least, maybe they speed things up, I don't know, but this is going to have to be at least a 4-parter. Honestly, it's going to have to be at least a 4-parter, the way things are going, as far as seasons. But anyway, I want to talk about episode 5. Episode 5 is basically, I think it was called Hamburger. Let me see. Episode 5 was called Hamburger. Oh, I just saw it. Hamburger Hamlet. The Hamburger Hamlet. Which I guess was a play on Paul Westhead meeting his daughter for lunch for hamburgers, I think it was. And as you watch the show, you know Paul Westhead is something of an intellectual, loves poetry, loves Shakespeare. But the writing is on the wall that Paul Westhead's tenure with the Lakers is going to come to an end. At the end of episode 4, Magic Johnson announces that, look, I'm not playing for this guy anymore. I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it. You know, it's not just a system. It's his style. It's him. I just can't play for this guy. We don't jive with one another. And episode 5 pretty much starts off where episode 4 ends. It's a public reaction to Magic saying that, look, I'm not playing for this guy. And at that time, this is before the quote-unquote player empowerment era or movement. You didn't see players say that, oh, I'm not playing for this coach. At that time, even superstars really couldn't do that. I mean, if they did, they would go behind the scenes and talk to the owner or talk to the general manager. But to go out public like that and make it appear that the player put pressure on the owner to get a coach fired, that really, to my recollection, never really happened before in the NBA until Magic did that in 82. And one thing I want to say before I go forward is, although there are some dramatic licenses that have been taken with this series, for the most part, I really like the accuracy of these episodes. Now, there are certain scenes that are created for dramatic purposes, obviously. But for the most part, this series, especially this season, even more so than last season, is pretty fucking accurate. As I've noticed, they have toned down Jerry West a little bit. He's not the raving Looney Tunes character that he was in season 1, but he still is a hyper competitive guy. But basically, this episode was the rise of Pat Riley. It was the rise of Pat Riley. So, trying to think where I want to start. Well, basically, there's pressure for Jerry Buss to fire Paul Westhead. Magic is adamant that he don't want to play for this guy, and but at the same time, Jerry Buss don't want to appear weak. He doesn't want to appear that Magic is running this franchise, and it's not just Magic, because look, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had no problems with Paul Westhead. I mean, I can understand why. He was featured in the offense, He's putting up big numbers, so that helps him as far as his his potential value as a player as far as money or if there's a trade or anything like that. So, he has no issue with that, but it's about Magic. But ultimately, Magic gets his way. Jerry Buss has a meeting with Magic Johnson, and I think in real life that meeting didn't occur face to face. It was over the telephone, from what I've read. But still, Magic makes it abundantly clear. He makes it abundantly clear that he is not going to play for Paul Westhead, and if need be, he would push for a trade. And Jerry Buss had no inclination on trading a superstar. Even though Paul Westhead was trying to, pressure Jerry Buss, even though that's his boss, but still, he was trying to imbue to Jerry Buss the need to show his assertiveness and that he's an employee as far as Magic Johnson, and you can't just let this guy do what he want to do. We didn't see that back then. Magic got his way though. Magic got his way, and they fired Westhead. Now it was assumed when Westhead went down that Pat Riley was fired. As a matter of fact, Pat Riley just went ahead and assumed that he was fired as well, and it was bringing up feelings of inadequacy and uncertainty about his future. His father had issues with employment and things of that nature, and being destroyed by, not being stable as far as his employment. And much to his surprise, it wasn't the case that he was being fired. He was actually going to continue on in a capacity that he thought was as a co-coach with Jerry West, who had agreed to come on and help and be an quote-unquote offensive consultant, whatever the fuck that is. So they were announced through the media as they were going to be two coaches, or, I guess maybe, as Pat Riley put it, well, I'm the coach, but Jerry West will be assisting me. Because you really can have but one coach in the NBA. But ultimately, we see the arrival of Pat Riley. That's what this episode was about. Initially, Pat Riley was kind of unsure of himself. Pat, because of the fact that his father was such a nasty guy, I guess the way that the show portrays it, Pat wanted to be this easygoing dude. Pat wanted to be the guy that everybody likes, gets along with. But that also leads to people sometimes not fearing you or even sometimes respecting you, your authority. They like you, but they don't respect you. So Pat had to unleash his inner self, which is how he really is when, push comes to shove. He could be a nasty, brutally honest guy. But the way that he delivered it, it wasn't the nastiness. His intention was never to build you down or break you down like Paul Westhead sometimes could. It was to tell you the straight truth, but it was to get you to straighten up. And for whatever reason, the players almost all instantly liked Pat Riley. And then you see the transformation where he's wearing the Giorgio Armani suits, and he makes the decision to slick his hair back, and he turns into the Pat Riley that we all know and love as far as his style. It's a far cry from the Pat Riley with the beard and the shaggy hair from the first season. Also, I want to make another note about this series. Have you noticed that these players and these individuals are aging properly as the years go on? Like, if you remember Jerry West, when the show first started in 1978 or 70, I think it was 1978, Jerry West had black hair. It was thicker. And at the time, Jerry West was about 39 or 40 years old. Now that we're in 1982, Jerry West is about 44 years old. So if you look at his hair, it's shorter because that's the style, and it's a little bit more silver. He's not grayed yet, but there's a little bit more silver in his hair. If you looked at Dr. Jerry Buss, his hair is even thinner. I mean, you know, we all know that he's really bald and he's just got some comb over shit going, but it's even a little bit thinner. So I do like how these guys are aging appropriate. They're taking a lot of technical, they're taking a lot of technical, and being they're being very technical about it and being accurate in a lot of different aspects of this series, and I love it. One other thing I want to note that the episode talked about too was Bill Sharman and his throat issues. While he never actually had that type of situation occur to him at that time where he was coughing up blood, it did make sense for them to at least point it out, because since the early 1970s, Bill Sharman had issues with his throat. And he did indeed step down eventually at that time. I think he stepped down from that role, and that would be the role that Jerry West would take over and be so brilliant in. But I think they had to do that to show you because they had never really said anything about his throat, but they had to do that to show you that he has these issues with his throat. But other than that, man, I think it's another great episode. You also saw how things aren't really good between Jerry Buss and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But yeah, that's it, man. You know, I just look forward to episode 6 and tell me what you guys think.